Your brain is the most powerful weapon in the world. Once you put away your phones and your computers and all that we have nowadays, yeah, it's great. We're up to date, but your brain is the only thing you have when you're going through depression, when you're going through hard times, when you're going through death, real life. You can't Google that, man. You're alone. You're alone. You may have a shrink you're going to, you may have a best friend you're going to, but there's 24 hours in the day where you're alone in this brain, and your brain is talking to you in all kinds of ways, and it wants to control you and pull you in these different pockets. If you can't control your own brain and your brain controls you, you got to tell your brain where you want to go and how you want to go and how you want to get there. You got to control it. If not, it's over. The biggest problem in this world is other people, not yourself. It's other people in your head. They are puppet mastering you pretty much on your life. We live by the narrative of other people. When I first called a recruiter to be a Navy SEAL and I was 297 pounds, the first recruiter looked at me and said, "You're not gonna be able to make this, man." So what he was doing was he's projecting his energy on me. He knew he couldn't be a Navy SEAL. So God helped this black guy, because I was only the 36th African American to make it through in over 70 years. How's this black fat guy gonna make it through in my ass? He wasn't even willing to try. So he's projecting it. So a lot of us who are negative people, all we do is project how we feel on other people. A lot of times I'll be in a 200-mile run or something like that, and I'm all jacked up. Body's broken, mind's broken, spirit's broken. I started to say, what if I can pull this off? When I first walked into the Navy SEAL recruiter's office, he looked at me and said, there's only been 35 African Americans in 70 years make it through. You know what I said to myself? What if I can be the 36th? It's the what if I can pull off a fucking miracle. What if I can become someone that no one thinks I can be? And just me talking about that, I have the hair going up on my arms, because it makes me just like, what if? I had to invent a guy that didn't exist. I had to invent a guy that can take any pain, any suffering, any kind of judgment, be called whatever the in the world, and be able to stand in the room and say, go yourself. I had to build this callous mind, and I built it through suffering. So when you have a messed up foundation, I started lying about everything. I wanted people to like me. I wanted to be accepted in some society of life. I was like, man, this isn't the right way. I messed up here, I messed up here, I messed up everywhere. And so I realized the worst thing that happened to me is I lost myself. I never had myself, I never found myself. I had no self-esteem. So I knew through working out and through learning, because it took a lot for me to learn also, I started finding self-esteem. Once I found that, that's when doors started opening up. I stopped caring about people, that what they thought, being judged. Wow, if I say this, if I started right now, are you gonna make fun of me? I stopped caring about that. And that's when my life started really changing for me, slowly but surely. My eyes snapped open 6 minutes before my alarm started chirping. Sometimes 5:30 comes even earlier than that sounds. In my SEAL days, I woke up before the sun to take motherfuckers' souls and wasted no time getting the fuck after it. But that April morning, I had to will myself to move an inch at a time. My left side was bruised purple from my hip to my ribs. My intercostal muscles were sore enough that even breathing hurt. My neck was so stiff that I could barely turn my head. We were 2 weeks into smokejumper rookie training and deep into ground school, and it was parachute landing falls, season in Fort St. John. For most of the day, my old broken ass would be bouncing off the frozen ground over and over again. I palmed my vibrating phone from the nightstand and peeled myself off the mattress. I hadn't felt this exhausted and sore since I was 24 years old. Back then, I did whatever it took to lose the weight and make it through SEAL training, because I knew that would change everything. I'd be able to leave Indiana behind, gain self-respect and confidence, and infuse my life with meaning. But now, there was literally nothing riding on this. I hadn't even told many people where I was or what I was doing. I had zero external motivation and all of the pain. Every morning, I asked myself the same question: why the fuck am I putting myself through this? I wasn't lacking in self-confidence or in search of meaning, and I didn't need a paycheck. Simply put, this is just who the fuck I am. I could practically hear my bones creak as I stood up slowly, shuffled to the window, and pulled back the curtain. Another foot of snow had fallen overnight, and it was still coming down heavy. We'd expected it to be cold in northern British Columbia, but this was something beyond. It was the coldest spring they'd had in as long as anyone could remember. When it wasn't raining, it was snowing, and the shifting north winds had a way of cutting you to the bone. There was a time when all it would take was a hard rain pelting the roof above my bed at 1 a.m. to ignite the savage in me. I took nasty weather like a taunting. It stripped away the gauzy fog of sleep and lit a fuse. The harder it rained or snowed, the longer I'd run because I knew that nobody would ever do something that fucked up if they didn't have to. Some of my favorite runs of all time were the 20 miles I strung out along Lake Michigan during the notorious Chicago winters. But that was some time ago. I glanced over at Kish, all cozied up and sound asleep. Technically, I wasn't required to report to the base until 8 a.m., and that bed was reaching out and tempting me back into her arms. So I turned to that window again and watched the snowfall. It looked to me like hell had frozen the fuck over, and that was my cue. I suited up in a thermal top, regular running shorts, and a beanie, slipped on a pair of heated gloves, and went out for a 9-mile run. I didn't want to. The pain in my left leg was medieval first thing in the morning, but I didn't have any wiggle room. I wasn't on my own schedule anymore. For the past 7 years, I had been able to train when I wanted to. I could schedule everything else around my runs and gym workouts to optimize my fitness and performance. Now, I was a grunt again, and I could not afford to turn up at the base stiff as fuck. Those early morning runs were non-negotiable for this 47-year-old rookie because almost everybody else in my rookie class was in their early or mid-20s. Most of them came from backwoods Canada and grew up playing ice hockey 6 months a year. They had opted out of Generation Soft, and a handful were hell-bent on racing against me with every mile they had. I respected that, but if you come for the old head's crown, there will be some pushback. Which is a long way of saying that it didn't matter if my body couldn't bounce back like theirs, or that I had to eat cleaner food, stretch in the morning and at night, and prioritize recovery. It didn't matter if I had to sleep less because there are only so many hours in any fucked up day. If that's what it took, I was a willing warrior. Willing warriors don't reach for excuses. While it's human nature to try and talk yourself out of doing a hard or inconvenient thing, we know that it's not negotiable. There are a lot of people out there who are willing to sign up for the military or police force, apply for a job, or enroll in college or graduate school because they expect some tangible and timely return on their investment. Warriors aren't in it for cash or benefits. That's all gravy. Even though I was broke, I would have found a way to pay the U.S. Navy to be a SEAL. Nobody recruited me to Fort St. John, and I lost money by taking the job. But willing warriors seek out our own missions and pay any and all tolls required. I wanted to do this fucking job, period. It was freezing and I was sore as hell, but my bruises in that nasty weather didn't give a fuck about me. And rest assured, that feeling was mutual because I was not content to just show up hoping to graduate. When you're on the older side of the age spectrum, you often get more credit than you deserve for simply showing up to do something physically challenging. Nobody expects much from you, and the temptation is there to perform to those very low expectations. Showing up is an important first step, but if you plan to show up, you may as well show the fuck out. Nothing had been plowed yet. I bashed through powder on the feeder streets to reach the highway where I ran in fresh, slushy tire tracks laid down by pickup trucks and big rigs. Fort St. John is populated by early risers who work on local ranches, in the oil and gas industry, or in the endless acreage of spruce and northern pine forests, and they love to haul ass on that icy highway. My feet numbed out pretty quick and the snow intensified to near blizzard conditions. Snow and ice pelted my face as I squinted and ran into oncoming traffic. Often I had to dash from the middle of the road to the safety of the deeper snow on the shoulder, and whenever I was able to catch a glimpse of the driver, I found inspiration in their wide eyes of wonder and shocked expressions at having watched me materialize from a snowstorm like a creature from another realm, a halo of steam pouring off me. They all seemed to be asking themselves the same question: is he crazy? Or is that the most driven motherfucker I've ever seen? Every footprint on that highway and each street I ran down belonged to me. Nobody else in town was out on foot. Most of the other rookies were still fast asleep, but beat the shit at 47 years old after all I'd accomplished. I was still getting the same what the fuck looks I got back when I was in my mid to late 20s. And that lit me up like a torch. My injuries no longer mattered. The pain that awaited me in rookie training in just a few hours made no difference to me at all. My body was warming up and my mind was hardening into cast fucking iron yet again. It took close to 9 miles, but the savage was ready for whatever the powers that be had planned. The two fastest runners in class when it came to the shorter distances were a guy called Prefontaine and another nicknamed Hard Charger. both were in their early 20s. And on one day of training, when we went through a string of fitness tests, they beat me on the 1.5 mile sprint. No one knew yet that I was just 9 months out of surgery with a plate in my leg, or that my time of 8:25 was only 15 seconds off my personal best set when I was a teenager in the Air Force. I was stoked with my performance. They were great athletes. To know that I was their parents' age and still able to hang with them was a reminder that I was still as hard as woodpecker lips. A lot of the PT we did came with unknown distance and time, because when fighting a fire, you never know when the exertion, the work, or the suffering might end. And the instructors wanted to see how our minds and bodies responded to the unknown element. That shit was tailor-made for me. The longer the run, the heavier the pack, the more intense the gym session, the greater the suck, the better I got. Those young guns may have been faster on the short course, but I almost always outlasted them. On one ruck, HC and I broke free from the group. I pushed the pace and he stayed on my shoulder. We were running flat out, and after a few miles of hard running, his breath turned raspy and thick. He sounded like a bulldog in heat, but refused to let me drop him and was unwilling to stop. He stopped once before at the end of a different long run we've done together after work. This time he made it to the finish line, breathing like his lungs were flipping inside out, and we finished side by side, both of us spent. I turned to him, nodded, and said, "That's what the fuck I'm talking about." I was proud of him, but I was also proud of myself. I'd had a minimal amount of time to get in shape to qualify for one of the hardest jobs in the world. It had been a demanding journey with agony, an ever-present shadow. Yet at 13 weeks post-surgery, I rode my bike 444 miles. At 8 months, I ran 48 miles in 45 hours. And at 9 months, I was challenging 20-somethings in everything from running to rucking to pull-ups to hauling heavy shit, a hell of a long way. But I wasn't out to take their souls. This young group inspired me. I wanted to push them like they were pushing me, because they were the next generation of heart. And though I did like winning my fair share of runs and workouts, I liked it even better when they got me.